Hey, what's going on, guys? It's FPL Yusuf and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be previewing game week 37 with a transfer target video. We'll be going into detail about players we should be bringing in this week, maybe players that we should be avoiding, and a whole lot more. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Okay, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for being back and joining me once again. Like I said, today we're going to be going into the double game week 37 with a transfer target video. Just going to do a quick little recap over what happened in game week 36. We actually had a very good week in game week 36. We ended up on 107 points. Obviously, a lot of those points coming from Erling Haaland and his 4 goals, which was nice to have as a captaincy option. But as you can see, like all around the team, we had returns all over, and all it takes is just one of those weeks where things just go right, and all of a sudden your rank changes. You start climbing up the mini leagues. So yeah, we had a few nice little double-digit point hauls, couple of 7s, couple of 8s. Bit unfortunate with a few players on the bench. Obviously, we had Anthony Gordon there while De Bruyne was starting and blanked. Anthony Robertson obviously had 7 points, and we had 2 very late clean sheet wipeouts with Dan Burn and Pau Torres. But you know what? Overall, 107 points. Anytime you get triple digits, like we'll always take it. So yeah, overall, good game week 36. But as I said in the start, we're here for game week 37. So let's get right into it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just run through the teams that are doubling, or at least some of them anyway, and just go through some of their assets, and then we'll talk about maybe the best players to bring in per position wise. So we're going to start off with Chelsea. Now, as you can see on screen, each team I'm going to do sort of 4 or 5 different players from those teams that maybe are genuine considerations that are bringing in. I know a lot of people are probably going to be free hitting or bench boosting this week, so you kind of want to have a full squad, and naturally you're going to want to have players who are doubling. So Chelsea. Petrovic as a goalkeeper, I think, is a good way to cover the defence. I think the one thing with Chelsea right now is that they have most of their defence fit, which makes it a little bit harder to sort of differentiate and pick between who's going to start. Whereas Petrovic, he's probably going to be their starting. Robert Sanchez doesn't look like he's anywhere near it, unfortunately for him. So I think Petrovic is a good shout if you're looking for that nailed player in the Chelsea back line who's going to get clean sheets. He's been in good form over the last few weeks as well, so you can't really go wrong there. So Petrovic, for me, in terms of defense, I still wouldn't pick him as a number 1 for my defenders, but I think he's a viable option. As you guys can see on screen, I've got Marc Cucurella here for the defensive side of things. Now, he is someone that I've actually brought in this week, and he's actually in my differentials of the week, which we're going to come into later on, and I really do like him. Chelsea are sort of playing a different style of system at the moment where they're using their fullback to invert, and he's the one who's doing it. Now, like I said, with rotation pieces, there's always a chance that he might get rotated. Levi Cole has just come back. He was on the bench last week. Can play that left back spot. I don't know whether I see Poch doing that, especially because Chelsea have been on a good run of form at the moment. And I feel like a large part of it has been down to Cucurella. He's been having great performances recently, but where he's inverting inside, it sort of gives him a little bit more control in the game. And I'm not too sure whether Colwill can sort of emulate that and run it through with that as well. So yeah, for me, for the defensive side of things on here, Cucurella straight in there, and he's the transfer that I've made this week. Then you look at the midfielders. I think Cole Palmer just goes without saying, as we all know. The other 2 I've got here are Noni Madueke and Conor Gallagher. Both of them have been returning recently with goals, assists. They've been chipping in with a lot of attacking threat for Chelsea. And obviously both are differentials. Both are going to be very low owned. I think a lot of people probably look elsewhere. They'll probably look for Jackson, as we're going to come on to, Cole Palmer, and then maybe like a Petrovic or a defender. So I feel like Madueke and Gallagher, if you're looking to climb up mini leagues or looking to jump rank, they could be a great shout for you guys. And finally, it's the last but not least, obviously the only striker that Chelsea have at the moment is Nicholas Jackson. Just come off the back of an insane haul, 16-pointer, which we did actually have in our last game week. So yeah, it was really good time to own Nicholas Jackson. Looks to be finding some sort of form before the end of the season, which, for a double coming up is nice. I think a lot of people will bring him in this week if they haven't. They're not free hitting, and I think even on the bench boost, I think a lot of people will start to move for him. So yeah, if you had him last week, then it's extra points. But yeah, I think Jackson for me just rounds off the Chelsea squad as someone who you maybe want to consider having for this week. Next team we're going to talk about is Manchester City, and same as Chelsea, we're going to start off with the goalkeeper, and that is Ederson. I've put him in here again because I feel like there is less rotation chance in Manchester City's defence, but there is still the obvious thing that it's a Pep Guardiola team and you just never know. So Ederson, a little bit maybe more on the premium side. If you're going for a free hit, then I suppose money doesn't matter to you. If you're not free hitting and you're bench boosting, then you kind of want to have 2 playing goalkeepers just to try and maximize it. So I think Ederson is a decent shout. What I would say though is I think Fulham away and Spurs away, I would have liked Man City to have 1 home game, if I'm being honest with you. I feel like I don't know whether I can guarantee and say that we see clean sheets coming in this. Even though Spurs have been playing terribly, they usually do give City a game. Now, I'm not sure whether that's going to be the case because obviously if they beat City or they take points of them, it's probably going to hand the title to Arsenal. So as a Spurs fan, you're probably not going to want to see that. But me as an Arsenal fan, I'm kind of relying on them Fulham. But yeah, I'm not sure whether how the chance of seeing Man City with a clean sheet. But Edison there, 2 games, has a nice fixture on the last game of the season at home to West Ham as well. So it's not just for this week, you have him for next week as well. I think that brings us nicely on to defenders. Now, I've got 2 defenders in here, as you can see. I've gone for Kyle Walker and Gavardio. And I don't really think there's a lot to separate these two between each other. They're roughly similar in price. Both of them are coming into great range of form at the moment, especially Gavardio, like with his attacking returns. He's really sort of stepping up and he's playing very high up the pitch as well. Which, you know, for an FPL point of view, that's what you want to see your assets doing, playing as high up and as attacking as possible. So, yeah, I think it's very difficult to switch between them or to split between them. Like I said, on free here, I imagine more people will probably head towards Gavardio because of his recent form. Is just a little bit better than Kyle Walker. However, Kyle Walker hasn't been bad by any stretch of the imagination. So I think, yeah, I think it's a sort of toss and turn. But for me, I think I would probably prefer Kyle Walker. But yeah, like I said, it's either one is absolutely fine. And that brings us nicely onto the midfield where we've got another 2 players fighting out for a position. That is Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne. Again, it's a difficult one. For me personally, I'm tripled up. So I've got both of them in my team, which me personally, if I'm advising you, I would say do the same thing. I would say maybe leave the Man City defense and go for the midfielders. Because like I said, I don't know if I see Man City keeping clean sheets, but they probably will score in both the games. So for me, Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, I don't think you can go wrong with having both of them. If you were just picking one solely because you haven't got any other slots, I think I would probably opt for Phil Foden more. He's cheaper. I think his goal threat is higher. Obviously, De Bruyne has the more assist threat, but I think his goal threat and his explosivity, I think they're just a little bit better for Phil Foden for me. And the last guy from Man City is Erling Haaland. Again, goes without saying, he's their main man, just comes back of 4 goals. You can't really go wrong with starting him up front. He's probably going to be most people's captaincy choice this week as well. So yeah, that wraps up Man City. Last but not least, the last thing we're going to talk about is Newcastle. Again, the goalkeeper I haven't included in this one because Nick Pope is back and I do expect him to get some minutes in this double game week. Whether he'll play both the games or not, I'm not 100% sure. But I think there's definitely a shout that he's going to get minutes. So no goalkeeper from Newcastle. We have got Dan Burn in the defence for them. Probably the most nailed defender. They've got a lot of injuries at centre backs. So Dan Burn obviously is going to play there. There is not a real centre backs fit. You know, Lascelles is injured, Botman's injured, Shaw is still injured, so he is the only one who can really play there. Maybe there's an outside shout at like a Livramento. You have to keep an eye and see what happens with Kieran Trippier. But I think for me, if I'm going for a Newcastle defender, I think Dan Burn is just the easiest pick there. The midfield is where it gets interesting. I've got Anthony Gordon and I've got Jacob Murphy down there. Both of them seem to be starting quite regularly for Newcastle at the moment. And Newcastle are, by all accounts, in free scoring form at the moment. So they are putting goals past people. And I do like the fact that you've got one winger down either side. Obviously, both affordable wingers as well. I think I'd probably head towards Anthony Gordon just a little bit more because I think there's more security of minutes. But yeah, for me, both players are a viable option and a decent shout. And finally, the last 2 up front is obviously Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson. Now, at the time of recording, I'm not actually sure if Callum Wilson's re-injured himself again. There was talks that he might have picked up another knock, which means he would be out. So if you're not using any chips this week, or you only have or you're using a bench boost and you only have 3 transfers, hold off and wait as long as you can to try and find out as much information as you can about Callum Wilson. But I think Alexander Isak goes without saying he is one of the most informed strikers in the league at the moment, along with Erling Haaland. And again, also a viable captaincy shout, which I'm considering myself. One of the games obviously are at home, one's away. But I think with Isak, it doesn't matter where he's home or away, his form is just exceptional. So yeah, for me, Alexander Isak does make the list. But Callum Wilson, I would say just hold off on for now and just wait and see what happens. Okay, so that's just a brief rundown of the 3 major teams that I'm thinking of doubling. We're going to move on to position by position now. We're going to start with the defence. Now, Cucurella is my number 1 on this. As I said in the previous video, I'm going to talk about him. You're going to see his name pop up a lot. He is number 1 for me. I do think he's got that starting spot nailed down for Chelsea, and I don't see him being changed out anytime soon. So he kind of goes without saying. I think for me, double fixture, playing really well for Poch in this new inverted role for me is going to be at number 1. Now, number 2, I've gone for an Arsenal defender again. And this is one thing I want to stress in this video is don't overlook the single game week players, especially if you're bench boosting. Don't be afraid to have just a guy going there with a single game week, especially if it's an Arsenal defender. And I have put Ben White He's a little bit more expensive than Gabriel, but I think he just offers that tiny little bit more of attacking threat than Gabriel does by going up and down that right-hand side with Bukayo Saka. So yeah, for me, Ben White, even though he's only got one fixture, a little bit on the pricey side, but I think he's worth it. So Ben White for me in at number 2. And finally, last but not least, number 3. This one really does burn me to say, but I'm going to put Pedro Porro there. Now, bear in mind, I don't expect Tottenham to keep a clean sheet in either of the games. I know one of them is against Burnley and it's at home, but I still don't expect Tottenham to keep a clean sheet, if I'm being honest with you. I definitely don't expect them to keep a clean sheet against Manchester City. I think with Pedro Porro, you're hoping for the upside of an attacking return. So for me, Ben White does go above him, and Pedro Porro will be last on this list, but it's Cucurella first, Ben White number 2, and Pedro Porro in at number 3. Okay, so onto the midfielders now. This is where the big points are coming in, right? This is where everyone's looking to see who's got the best assets. For me personally, I'm going to put Cole Palmer in at number 1, and I'm going to put him ahead of the City boys because I think he is Chelsea's main man. I think they have an easier double than Man City do. Fulham away is not an easy game by any stretch of the imagination, and Tottenham away, despite their form, usually cause Manchester City some problems. So for me, I've gone for Cole Palmer. I think he's got the best fixtures. He is Chelsea's main man. He's obviously on penalties, plays 90 minutes every week. For me, Cole Palmer is getting that number 1 spot. Closely followed by Phil Foden in at number 2. I have put him there. I do think that he will still offer a lot, and I do expect him to play both the games in this double for Manchester City. Like I said, both of them obviously are away, which doesn't help, but I still do think that he's got just a higher goal threat than what Kevin De Bruyne does. And I think with the goal threat comes the explosive ability to get hauls. So yeah, for me, Phil Foden in at number 2. And last but not least, number 3 is a single game week player, as you guys can see. It is Kai Havertz, who again, for me, just continues to find his form at the moment, and I'm here for it as an Arsenal fan. And like I said in my previous section, don't overlook the single game week players for doublers because they've got an extra fixture, because it doesn't always work out like that. So yeah, for me, Phil Foden getting that number 2 spot just behind Cole Palmer, and then we've got Kai Havertz coming in at number 3. And finally, onto the forwards. It goes without saying that this 1 and 2 is really close. I've gone for Haaland just over Isak because he's in the better team. But I wouldn't be mad if someone put Isak first and wanted to captain him like myself, which is what I'm considering doing this week. So I've gone for Erling Haaland in at number 1, Alexander Isak number 2. I think them two just kind of go without saying as it comes down to them. And the third one I've gone for is Nicholas Jackson from Chelsea. Again, we spoke about him at the start of the video. I think he's playing really well at the moment, and he's in great form. So for me, I don't think you can really look past him. So as the front three, I think that's probably what most people are going to be running this week is Haaland, Isak, and Jackson. But it's there for the points, and obviously all of them have double fixtures, which just helps that cause. Okay, so differentials of the week. So we're going to recap over what we had last week. We did get a return, and it was from João Pedro. A little bit unlucky, actually, not to get higher. So he did get the winning goal for Brighton. Missed the penalty, unfortunately, for him. So it could have been even more. Like, he only ended up on 5 points, and it just goes to show you how much this penalty affects your overall bonus point scoring. Unfortunately, Antonio didn't really do nothing. Chelsea absolutely battered West Ham. And despite Sheffield United losing 3-1 to Nottingham Forest, Chris Wood didn't do anything. He had no goals, no assists, nothing, which I was disappointed with as well. So hopefully, fingers crossed, 1 out of 3. Hopefully we can do a little bit better this week. Again, this seems to be like the man of the show today, and that is Marc Cucurella in at number 1. 2.8% owned, so cheap, so low owned, and I still can't believe why he's so low owned, especially because people are going to be free hitting this week. But like I said, I think people are sort of uncertain around the Chelsea backline and who's going to start, especially now Colwell's back. So I think more people are probably going to go to Petrovic, which, for owners of Cucurella like myself and maybe some of you guys, that's even better for us. So yeah, Cucurella, my first differential in at 2.8% owned. My second differential, now this week was really difficult actually to pick differentials for, but I'm going to go for Dominic Calvert-Lewin from Everton. He's playing Sheffield United, I believe, or Luton. He's playing one of the two bottom teams. Obviously, he's playing Sheffield United, I think, because he played Luton last week and he did get a goal and he did end up in bonus points. So for me, I'm going to put Dominic Calvert-Lewin here, 1% owned, which blows my mind. But yeah, if you are free hitting and you're looking to climb up the leagues and you're looking for a little bit of a differential, I wouldn't be mad at it. I wouldn't be mad at Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Obviously, under 6 million as well, so very cheap to own. And yeah, he's going to take my number 2 spot in this differential of the week list. And finally, last but not least on this list, it is going to be Mohamed Kudus. I've gone back to West Ham. He's only 3.1% owned. Again, he's very, very low owned as well. And he's probably going to be a player that's overlooked upon because he is a single game week player. However, it is Sheffield United and it is at home for them. And I could see them putting 3, 4, 5 past Sheffield, unfortunately. Sheffield obviously relegated from the Premier League now, so they haven't really got anything to play for other than giving their fans a send-off, which they'll probably do on the last game of the season at home anyway. So this away trip to West Ham, I think, could be quite difficult for them, and hence why I've gone for Mohamed Kudus as my third and final differential pick. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I'm going to try and record a video tomorrow of a final preview, but I'm going to try my hardest to get 2 out. I do really want to do a free hit draft for you guys out there who are playing the chip. That one might be a really short video. I'll just put the picture of the team on screen and just sort of talk over it for a couple of minutes. Kind of like my FPL challenge video. So I might, if I get the time, I will try and do that for you guys. But like I said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And I'll catch you guys next time.